Staff Forum. Like I was mentioning today, my name is Eloise Holmes. I always forget to say who I am and my name. I am based in Collins Street most of the time. Lovely to have you all join us today. We have three speakers who will be speaking today, but before I tell you a little bit more about that, I would just like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land from which I am logging in, the Wurundjeri and Woiwurrung people of the Kulin Nations. I pay respects to their elders past, present and emerging, and any First Nations people who are joining us in the call today. Also would like to acknowledge people with disability who are the reason why we exist. Many of them fought long and hard for the NDIS, which is a source of our livelihood, but I will always remember an advocate who said, you know, you're discussing our livelihoods, you're discussing your livelihoods, but for us, it's our lives that you're discussing. To me, that's a very poignant message to be reminded of. Today, we have three particular specific topics that we'll talk about. One is the outcomes, the results of the client experience survey that our acting director of quality strategy and risk, Brooke Treacher, will talk to us about. Brooke will also give us an update on the outcomes of our recent recertification audit. Matt will talk to us about a good life, and I will piggyback a little bit on that at the end of Matt's talk because we are raising funds for a good life. So stay tuned to find out what that's all about if you haven't seen the information in our social media channels and the public domain as well. And then Di Francois, our Chief People Officer, will also talk about actions in response to the latest employee experience survey that we held as well. Before we go on with the topics and the presenters, is there anyone new that people would like to introduce? Is there anyone new who's joined Yooralla since our last all staff that people would like to join? To introduce. I can see Terry Simon's hand. Welcome back, Terry, from being away for a bit. Who do you have to introduce?
Thanks, Eloise. Yes, it's great to be back. I'm introducing Siobhan Joyce. Siobhan is our second CEO intern. The CEO internships are a partnership between Yooralla and the Disability Leadership Institute, and an opportunity for people with disability who are aspiring chief executives and executives to get exposure to roles like mine around the country. And Yoorala's previously sponsored and supported an intern, Megan Spindler-Smith, who's now moved on to other things, and we welcome Siobhan Joyce, who is our new intern. Siobhan is based in Brisbane, but Siobhan and I are kind of navigating diaries to work out a time for Siobhan to come and join us on site here as well. But Siobhan, I wondered if you wanted to say just a little bit about yourself, if you don't mind, Eloise, if we got time for that, like a quick intro. Thanks. Hi, Siobhan.
Thanks, Terry. Hi, everyone. So as Terry mentioned, my name is Siobhan. I am the CEO intern. I actually run my own business called Electro Consulting, and I am autistic with ADHD, and I have a neurological disorder, so I identify as being both disabled and neurodivergent. It's been a few weeks now that I've been on the CEO internship, and I really appreciate this opportunity. It's been great to work with Terry and everybody, and I look forward to connecting with and working with more of you as the internship progresses. And thank you for having me.
Thanks, Siobhan, and we've enjoyed working with you. And as always, we learn as much as the interns learn through these opportunities. So thanks again for your participation. That's all from me, Eloise.
Great, thanks, Terry and Siobhan. And we're forming a little bit of an alumni already of our executive interns. So it's a good thing, small group. I thought I saw Ighodalo's hand. Ighodalo, did you have anyone that you're going to introduce as someone new, or are you new yourself?
Yeah, I didn't know how to introduce anyone, but I am new and I recently joined about a month ago. So yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Lovely. And you're working in the Box Hill hub, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Explore the avenue.
Fantastic. Welcome,
Right.
welcome.
All right.
Great. Anyone else who has anyone new to introduce or new yourself and would like to introduce yourself, which is totally fine as well. Great move if that's the case. Okay. Can't see any more virtual hands. Otherwise, pipe up if there's anyone else. We might start off. Brooke, do you want to kick us off in terms of client survey outcomes?
Oh, thanks, Eloise, and lovely to see everybody this afternoon. So I've got a couple of topics to chat to you all about this afternoon. As Eloise said, keen to share the results of our client and staff survey and some good news around our recertification audit, which wrapped up, feels like a lifetime ago, but it was about a week ago. So first off, I would also like to acknowledge the clients that have participated in this survey and their families. It's been a really interesting process. Many of you I know are on this call actually undertook some of the surveys, and really like to acknowledge the fact that it takes a lot of effort and emotional energy to give that feedback. So thank you to everyone that I both conducted the surveys but also participated in them. Okay, so we approached the surveys a little bit different this year, well, last year, I should say. We had over 200 responses, pleasingly more clients than families this time around. And it related to clients that received surveys in the first half of last calendar year. We offered face-to-face interviews and members of Jane Carter's team and Matt Warren's team undertook some of those interviews with our clients. And I think what's resulted with that approach, rather than sending out an email survey, we've got much richer information. And we've also, I think, gotten to people that we might not have otherwise surveyed. So thanks to the team for the effort. I know it was a big effort to get round to almost 60 face-to-face interviews. So thank you for that. The other thing that was a little bit different this time around is we offered phone interviews to family members. About 20% of them took it up, so about 50 family members participated in phone interviews. So it was a much deeper, richer result that we actually got out of the survey this time around. Overall, families were more satisfied with our services than clients and were increasingly satisfied when compared to last year. I should just note that the clients that participated in the survey were more likely to be residential and community, whereas family more likely to be support coordination and allied. So slightly different service profile just to be aware of. So I'm going to go through three key themes that came out of the survey and then share some of the actions that we're looking at to address some of these themes. So the first is around how safe our clients feel, the attitude of staff, and the ability and willingness of our clients and families to speak up. So firstly, the good news is that 82% of our clients feel safe, but what we did hear from residents is that they report feeling less safe. And you can see a quote there from one of our clients about feeling safe in their bedroom, but less safe in other parts of the house. Now, what we did find is that family members were more concerned about verbal abuse and harm from other residents. And for those of you that work in residential, I'm sure that won't be a surprise. That was the area of concern for them. We did hear that half of our clients who responded don't like all the people they lived with. And about 60% of clients and 90% of the families had considered moving to different locations. So some quite confronting results there. Now, in terms of attitude of staff, this is probably the result that shocked me the most. I should preface it with it was a very small sample size. 17 residents responded to this question, but regardless, it was concerning. So what we heard is 18% of our clients report that staff always get angry with them, and a further 18% responded that they sometimes get angry with them. We didn't hear that from family members, probably not a huge surprise. They're probably not around to see it. And the other area of concern there was that 62% of clients report that they staff supported them if they were worried, upset, or had a problem. So probably a number we'd like to see a little bit higher. Finally, on a more positive note, what we did here was that staff and family are really comfortable. They know how to speak up, and they feel very much supported by staff to have their say. I think 83% is a great result, but I think we could probably get it to 100%. I think every single client that we provide supports to should know how to raise an issue. So I think that's the call out and the challenge going forward, to make sure that next time we do survey, everybody knows how to provide feedback or make a complaint. So obviously lots of teams works, my teams works, operations, people and culture, do a lot of work to address these areas, and it is ongoing part of our safeguarding framework. But I did want to share some of the actions that we're looking at. Some of these are already underway, but some of these are new, around responding to these things that have been raised in the staff survey. So the way we're trying to think about it is, how do we prevent things from happening? How do we intervene early and detect where there are risks, whether they're at-risk clients or at-risk settings? And then how do we respond really well and recover really quickly? So in terms of primary and prevention, some of the things that we're looking at, some of these things are already in place, and the evidence shows that there are some really great tools to look at client wellbeing and co-tenancy satisfaction. So Vipin and I have done some work already to identify where we know there might be some conflict between residents, but that is just the ones we know about. So really keen to make sure that we have a way of monitoring that going forward. All the work that Matt's team and independent advocates do to connect our clients to the community, and operations do every day, is another area that will really support people to keep themselves safe. Our active support practice leadership program is being relaunched, so that will be a key preventative in terms of making sure that clients are connected. Longer term, looking at how we reform our service provision, so we have more options, we have less segregated settings, where people living in the community receiving supports more in the community. One of the things I don't think we've done enough with, that I'm really keen to do more, is training around prevention and recognising potential signs of abuse and neglect. Now, this could be a hub client coming home to residents and staff seeing things that might not be right, or vice versa. So really making sure we know what the signs are, and I'm going to share a few of those later in the pack. The work that Di is doing around sort of taking our values and turning them into behaviours. So what are the behaviours that we expect of our staff, and which behaviours are unacceptable? And then making sure that we're coaching people towards those right behaviours. And a call out to staff in terms of, you know, for staff that work in our services, it can be at times a really stressful job. We know there's occupational violence and aggression, so it's really the organisation's responsibility to make sure that you're well supported to manage stress, and that we are focusing on reducing occupational violence and aggression. So in terms of detecting and intervening early, again, Vipin and I have been doing some work around recognising where there are poor relationships between residents, and he's already streaming them into some work with independent group to look at alternatives in terms of housing. But obviously we need to make sure that we get it right while we've got clients and residents in our services. So making sure that we have a really great process and a formalised process where complaints and incidents go unresolved. The other thing that we know is that post making a serious complaint, that can be a risky time for clients and their families. We saw it in a recent 60 Minutes interview that abuse actually escalated after the family had raised concerns. So making sure we've got a great process going forward to monitor what happens after someone makes a serious complaint. And formalising an escalation process for unexplained injuries. As I said before, we've had a number of times where staff in hubs have raised issues with clients coming in with injuries. So we want to make sure that we really have a strong process in place that can be escalated up the chain, and discussions can happen at senior levels if they don't get resolved. But it's really up to you to flag those things and for us to escalate and address them. We talked about expanding the way of capturing client feedback through the survey, through this process. And probably the big one for me is really testing some of these strategies with the clients and families that are at more risk, and co-designing some of our approaches going forward. Our YCPAC group have really expressed a great interest in the results, as you'd expect, and have offered their support in helping us address some of these things. And as I said, I think it's a pretty attainable target to get to 100% of staff, not staff as well, but clients and families reporting they know how to report if they have concerns. And then finally, we've done a lot of work, and I think we sort of lead the way in this area in terms of response and recovery through our redress program. So recognising where we don't get it right and compensating and offering apologies where appropriate, making sure that we're trauma informed, and partnering with the likes of the Centre for Innovative Justice to make sure that we actually do a really good job when things do go wrong, and recognise that we don't always get it right. So call out to Melissa Dunn, who may or may not be on this call. Melissa's relatively new to the organisation. She's our Disability Rights Advisor at APO. And Melissa's done some research into the evidence around things, warning signs and at-risk client groups and protective factors. So this is by no means complete and or exhaustive, but just wanted to share with you some of the things that the evidence suggests that could indicate someone is at risk. So we know that clients that don't use words to communicate are at greater risk, as well as those that don't have family or friends or supporters in their life. Those clients that we know receive full support, so all supports for the activities of daily living, are at greater risk, as are those with intersectionality with First Nations, LGBTQI+. Clients we know under guardianship or financial administration are at greater risk, and those that have been institutionalised. So I know many of our clients have come from institutions into group homes, go to day programs, and have really lived their life in a segregated setting. That does put them at greater risk. And some of the warning signs, and I think for those of you in operations, I think your gut rings when you see these things, but for those that may be newer, or just good to sort of remind some of the things that could be early warning signs of someone being abused or neglected. So sudden changes, unexplained changes in mood, more anxious, more depressed, unexplained injuries, which we've talked about a little bit already, particularly if they're frequent or in unusual locations. We all know the areas that we bump and our clients bump regularly. Avoidance of people, places and activities that our clients previously really enjoyed can be a bit of a sign. And some fearfulness or hesitance to communicate could indicate that there's something that clients might want to tell us. We know that poor access to communication devices, so clients turning up with without communication devices might be an indication also. And a service where it's very difficult for external people to break in can be a bit of a warning sign. Again, these could be at play and there could be completely different explanations for them, but just some warning signs to consider. And then on the positive, the protective factors, we know our clients with really strong circles of support are well insulated against these things and have people in their life that can flag where things might be not quite right. We know really engaged service managers, which we have many, and where we have a consistent staffing group lowers the risk. But we know, and likewise with lower agency use, where you have a team that is, where possible, able to cover each other's shifts and you have less unfamiliar people coming into the service. Services where there's great reporting and complaints. I will never complain that you report too many things. We want to see you complain more rather than not complain more, report more than less. We know clients that are more engaged in both our community and out and about in the broader community have some protective factors. And clients that do feel safe to speak up and do speak up, it's a great sign also. And where we know there are regular client meetings and clients are engaged in things like recruitment is a protective factor. So as I say, not complete list, could be other things going on, but just some things just to be aware of in terms of protective factors, but also at risk, things that might indicate someone's at risk. Now, I think you all know this, but I thought it'd be remiss of me to not remind you. There are a multitude of ways you can report a concern. We hope that you can work with your managers, but if you do feel uncomfortable or there's something that you're not sure about, you can go to the intranet. If you type in feedback as shown up the top, you'll get to the complaints and feedback tab. That has a long list of different ways to report. I'll point out two that are that you can report anonymously if you choose to. The first is a speak up feedback form. That will come just to myself and to Miranda, who's our Director of Just Culture, whose key job is to make sure that the culture of the organisation is really great. So you can flag things you're concerned about anonymously through those channels if you wish. The other thing that I will flag, and I think Eloise is going to kindly drop a couple of these links in the chat if she doesn't mind, is for—
Done it already, Brooke.
Oh, you're just two steps ahead. Thank you. For clients and families. So on the internet side, you can see at the top, there's that big feedback button that has a long list of different agencies they can report to, both internally and externally. So please encourage them and make sure that clients and families are familiar with those avenues. So that was me for the client and family survey results. I believe I'm just going to keep going, Eloise.
Sorry, Brooke. Do you mind a
Sure.
little bit of a change in program? There was quite a lot in that, and I was just wondering if we can open it to questions, if people had any questions or comments on what you've heard Brooke present. For some senior managers, you've obviously heard this before because we also presented this at the May senior management team meeting. Please raise your hands or just pipe up if anyone has any particular questions or comments for Brooke or for anyone in the call as well. A number of executives are in the call also. Might start us off, Brooke. I was just curious with the particular point you made about sort of anxiety amongst clients because of other residents. What mechanisms do we have now in place to sort of address that?
Look, I think the normal sort of challenges through kind of operational leadership. I know sort of Vipin's very, very engaged in providing lots of alternative options. But look, I think actually I might throw, is there anyone from operations on the call? I mean, obviously there's a way to make complaints. But is there someone from Melissa Coffray, do you want to take that one? Vipin?
Sure. Yeah, I can see Vipin's got his hand up too. I might give it a go first and then you can jump in, Vipin, if I've missed anything. We do have the feedback and complaints mechanisms that we communicate to our residents, but there's also a lot of work done sitting with the residents as a group, sitting with the residents individually to talk through what they're feeling, what they're thinking, how the staff might be able to support conversations with their co-residents if they're not comfortable to have them on their own. We do link individuals into external advocacy groups and supports as well, where they might feel that they need a person that's independent of the organisation. Sometimes it's tricky for the service manager to get involved in all of the conversations because both residents are Yooralla residents. So we do try and engage individuals where we possibly can. We have discussions about other accommodation options if the individuals don't see that there's a way to move forward. But yeah, there's no silver bullet in terms of fixing the relationships within the home immediately. Yeah, so it really is about facilitating discussions, open discussions, and providing support where we possibly can, and helping to find alternative accommodation options if that's their choice. Vipin, have I missed anything?
Thanks, Mel. Yeah, Vipin might want to.
No, Mel, thank you. I think just in addition to that, we have worked with Summer Foundation as well, just to provide alternative options to our clients. Like where they can talk to someone independently and discuss their options available out there where they are not happy in the current setting. So yeah, look, they have been, in addition to Mel, what you just said. I think that's the only thing I can say, that that workshop was organized. Surprisingly, we didn't get much interest. We actually reached out to each client one-on-one, but haven't had much interest to that workshop. So what we are going to do now is individually reach out and connect those external advocates to the houses, so they can go in home and provide that support if they need to talk individually rather than in a group setting.
Great. Thanks, Vipin and Mel. Beck Feldman, I can see your hand up. Hello.
Thanks, Eloise. And you've both spoken to it a little bit, and you particularly, Vipin, just then about the Summer Foundation connections. But if anyone can speak to some of that work around helping people investigate non-segregated options. Anything further?
You mean for residents, Beck?
Yeah, yeah.
So I'll jump in there. I think we've started the initial discussions, Beck, where individuals have expressed an interest in looking at other alternatives, but we have proactively gone out and had discussions with residents, even if they haven't indicated that they want an alternative. I think it's something that's a frequent discussion. We raise it continuously with individuals without harping on about it, because we don't want them to feel like they're not welcome, but we will have conversations with them about their options. It is, I guess, a bit about providing information about what is potentially out there. A lot of individuals are reliant on sufficient funding, so providing support and information about what that might look like without providing guarantees. But I would have to say we're probably at the start of that process. We're not necessarily, you know, well down the path of exploration with individuals. And I think it's important to note that our discussions have been around alternatives outside of Yooralla as well. So it's, you know, as much as we want to be able to be the service provider for our residents, we do need to acknowledge that there are options outside of Yooralla, and we might provide supports in other areas if they move into alternative accommodation.
Yeah. Thanks, Mel.
Thanks, Mel. Terry.
Thank you. I just thought it might be appropriate to add or remind people that both the Royal Commission and the NDIS review have recommended the separation of SDA landlord roles from support provider fill roles for exactly the reason that this question's kind of referring to, which is that when people, and the survey respondents speak really strongly to this, Brooke, when they are unhappy with who they're living with or they want to change who they're living with, they shouldn't have to change their support provider just because they want to change where they're living. But they do feel it's sort of widely felt that if their SDA provider is their still provider, they're part of a package deal in which they have to move out of the home if they want to get alternative supports, or if they want to change accommodation, they're going to have to break up with their support provider as well. So we agree with those recommendations, and we've started the work, and our board has endorsed the work to move towards separating over time, which will see Yooralla no longer being a landlord. We will be a support provider, not a landlord. And that is the future of Yooralla, and it's completely in line with the Royal Commission recommendations so that people have more choices around these things. So the other thing I might mention is the NDIS review also recommended establishment and government funding of specialist navigators for housing, which get to some of that role that Beck's referring to. So while we're doing, I think we're doing great work, Mel, to try and help service managers and clients become aware of options, but the reality is our day job is providing support, not giving professional advice about the whole housing sector. And one of the recommendations from the NDIS review is to have third parties who are paid specifically and to be dedicated advisors for people in group homes and disability accommodation to be aware of their options. And again, we really welcome that recommendation. So I don't know yet when it will come off. Eloise, can I throw in a bonus question?
Sure.
Can I really love the part, Brooke, about the survey where people were provided with support to complete the survey and respond to the survey. It really bothers me that some previous surveys and other surveys in the sector are only open effectively to people who can answer emails. And so I just wanted to ask if anyone on the call, anyone in this meeting, was part of that face-to-face support, and if you were, could you speak to what it was like? I'd be curious to hear what your experience was of supporting people to complete the survey.
I can see Charlotte's hand. Charlotte. We can't quite hear you, Charlotte.
You don't look like you're on mute.
Yeah, you don't look like you're on mute, but it could be a headset thing. Would be good to hear from Charlotte, someone who's actually got experience interviewing. Anyone else while we're waiting for Charlotte, who was part of the interviews for the survey? Okay, doesn't look like this. Oh, there you go. Hannah?
Hi everyone. Yeah, I did the surveys and we went out to a lot of the hubs and shared supported accommodations, and yeah, it was really great. There was very few people who declined to participate in the survey. Everyone was quite engaged, and like it was majority really good positive feedback. I felt like people got a lot of having the space and the time to be able to provide their feedback as well. So yeah, I would advocate for that it continues. Like I think it was really, really valuable and great to participate in as well.
Fantastic.
Great.
Beck?
Hi, sorry, I don't know why I've got two hands up or one hand up twice or something. Yeah, I think it was a great step, and I think we really heard from more people. I think where there was existing connections with people, the conversations were richer, and I wonder how we can have them over time as well. One deeper conversation is a great start, but how can we be going back to people so we really build that trust and rapport? And I know the staff close around that person often have that, but trying to have that independence, but also the conversation over time.
So you mean not just at survey time, but throughout the course of the year? Yeah, something for us to think about. Anyone else? Thanks for that, Beck and Hannah. Anyone else who had the experience of interviewing? We might.
Charlotte's back on.
Charlotte's back.
Charlotte.
Sorry, guys, just jumping in for Charlotte. We're having some problems getting her microphone to work. So, Charlotte, I don't know if you want to come over to me, but otherwise we'll sort it out. I think just continue on, maybe everybody, please.
Yeah, okay. I was imagining Charlotte walking over to you, Jules, and that's not a very long walk. Vipin, and then we're going to have to move on because time is running away like a train.
Liz. Look, Brenton has participated in the surveys as well, so he shared some feedback with me. I don't think he's in this call, but he shared some feedback about communication, particularly for non-verbal clients, that it would have been better if there were better communication sort of systems in place for those clients where they were non-verbal. So there's work happening in that space as well from Ops point of view, but that's one of the feedback that came back through him.
Great, thanks, Vipin. Now, as I am looking at the chat, we will read some of the comments as well. But Matt, Warren, do you want to talk about a good life?
Sure, thanks, Eloise. And I think it's a beautiful follow-on from Brooke's stuff. So I think everyone will actually see how the two pieces actually connect in. I'm just going to start with a little short video from Community Resources Unit in Brisbane. So just give me a second while I kick that one off.
What makes a good life?
What makes a good life?
All right, I'm ready for the first question.
Oh, that's hard to talk about. I might answer it in terms of what would be.
We're going to have a look at some of the great features of this client.
Excitement.
Be free as a bird, and I can get anything I want, like getting a house of my own.
A home where I can retreat to when I need time on my own, or to come as well as family, friends, financial supports, those kinds of things.
It's a good life, safe and security.
Reason of life, yeah. It's my idea of a good life anyway.
Have to have a goal and follow your dreams.
And also the opportunity to help others achieve goals. That's a good, for me, that's a good work-life balance, and that's what makes a good life.
No. I think a key part of it is around people feeling that they have a place within society.
Having an ordinary life, and for me that means going to work.
A job that I like doing with people that I enjoy working with.
Something to do, someone to do it with, and something to look forward to.
The positive reinforcement in life, not surrounding yourself by negative people.
Having enough money to be able to go out and socialise.
Feeling valued.
That within our community, within society, they have a place within that, and that's where you can have a good life.
Going, hang on, sorry. Stop my video. So that was just a bit of an introduction from a variety of different people around what they thought a good life might be. And I suspect everyone on here has a different view on what a good life might be. I'm going to share a little quick presentation with you. There's a question for everybody on the audience for a bit of feedback. Okay. So big thanks to Brooke and the Quality Safety and Risk team. Back in October, the team put together a new rights, quality and safety framework that you can see on the right-hand side with client voice at the centre of it. And in its original form, I like to think of this as the wedges. The wedge in the top left, the good life, was actually originally called a quality life. And Brooke very kindly suggested that we take that to the Lived Experience Advisory Panel and actually get their feedback on this framework and that particular one there. And pretty much unanimously, every person in that meeting, there were about 15 or 16 people, said, "Ooh, that's a bit much." And they said, let's start talking about what a good life is rather than a quality of life. That led to the LEAP team actually undertaking a project to actually say, well, what a good life might be and how could we come up with a framework for a good life. I won't go through all this given the time that we're in. It's based around the UN Convention of Rights for Persons with Disability. And the team took on 3 pieces of work. The LEAP members themselves actually had several meetings and discussed what they thought a good life might be. We also did both a survey and client-facing interviews, and we did an analysis and a report on the existing good life frameworks that are actually out there. Some of the quotes that came back from the members of A Good Life, and you would have heard the same sort of things in the video just there. And I really like the last one, which is, having choices and the ability just to do normal things like everyone on this call would think about. The themes that actually emerged for them, so the themes that emerged from the members themselves were actually having control of my everyday life, being confident in my identity, myself, who I am and my meaning in life, having rights and responsibilities in life. And a big one that came out for them was allyship with parents, families and supporters in their life. The themes that emerged from the client surveys were, again, rights were in there. Self-determination, social inclusion, interpersonal relationships, personal development and well-being. There's some of the key themes that actually came out there. What did we learn? We learned that there's actually no framework that's going to meet all the needs. We learned a lot about the good life work is long and deep, and it takes a lot to change. And in Brooke's previous presentation, we talked about people with disability often have lived in institutionalised settings for a very large part of their life. The change to go from that setting to embracing what a good life can't be underestimated, the sort of effort that goes into that and the changes and challenges that come along with that. We learnt that there are already people out there that have been doing this sort of work for years and years and years, and there's some fabulous training out there for staff and people doing support work. And we've actually identified some organisations that are doing work in this space, those three that are up there. Inclusion Melbourne, in one in particular, in recent times, they had 65 clients that were accessing day programs, and actually they transformed those into assuming roles out in the community. What we did learn is good life work really hasn't been attempted yet by a large provider. I'm going to pause there and I'm going to stop that. And Beck, I'm going to ask the question that you and I chatted about earlier, and I'm just keen for people to get quick, really rapid feedback into things. So if you think about yourself and your own life and think about things like having a job, having employment, having a home, having a family, having friends, having a purpose in life, in a rating out of 5, and I'll give you like 10 or 15 seconds, bang into the chat how you would rate your life now. Away you go.
What's the scale, Matt? 1 to 5?
1 to 5. Don't give it a 10, Eloise.
5 is good, right, Matt?
Yeah, 5 is good. Yep. I'm seeing lots of 4s and 5s and 4.5s. Everyone has to split the difference, don't they? They can't resist doing that. So now I want you to go on to a little step further. And I want you to think about somebody with a disability that you know, or a client that you support, or a resident that you support. And think about those same things again. Does the person have a family around them? Does the person live in their own home? Does the person have a job? Do they perform some social role in community? Do they have kids? And how would you think about how they might rate those lives? And bang a response into there as to, again, between 1 and 5, what you think they might look like. So I'm seeing lots of 2s and 3s. So this is one way that I'm trying to demonstrate the difference between the good life that we all have and the lives that our clients have, and what the good life work at Yooralla going forward will be all aimed at. It's aimed at picking up all those 2s and 3s and working with those clients over time and bringing up to the same good life standard that we actually all have and enjoy. Eloise, given the time of where we're at today, I might leave that one there for today, if that's all right.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks very much. Great exercise. And we missed Brooke giving an update on audit. Brooke, because of time, do you want to just give a very quick update on audit outcomes?
So huge, mammoth effort from everybody in the organisation, those involved in it and those that aren't. 3 best practices, which we're really proud of. Our lead auditor told us she'd only ever given out 2. So really great work. 2 minor issues, nothing insurmountable. They'll check in 18 months' time. So we will be recertified. So congratulations to everyone who was involved. Huge demonstration of teamwork. So thank you.
Congratulations, everyone. Mammoth work, as Brooke has said. And just briefly, we do have a 1 minute and 30-second video on our campaign on A Good Life. We are raising funds so that we can develop initiatives that will support this work that's been done by Matt and company. But I'm conscious of time, and I promised Di Francois 15 minutes or so to talk about her presentation, and it's now already 13 minutes left. Di, did you want to, I'll drop the link to the campaign in the chat here, and if we have time at the end, we'll play that video. But Di, you want to just talk about our values, our outcomes of the survey and some of the actions that we are proposing as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, thanks, Eloise, and hi, everybody. I think last time we had the all staff, I had just started, so we deferred actually presenting on this action plan. what I do want to say is that there are a lot of actions that that are underway and have been underway for some time. I think, you know, the data that we get from our staff pulse survey is really critical for us to guide us in what we prioritise at an organisation-wide level. So, you know, I do want to thank everybody for their contributions. Getting into the data, I'm just going to spend 2 minutes refreshing us very quickly about what you told us and sort of what the results were overall. Overall, generally very positive results. I guess what I would say is that our results, you know, are quite similar to the rest of the sector. So there are a lot of things that are true for the whole sector. You know, we pat ourselves on the back because we performed better, I think, than a lot of sector averages. But at the same time, we see a lot of opportunity for improvement as well. So just comparing ourselves against the sector where there's a lot of challenges for people, you know, in our workforce and for our workplace. We're going through a lot of change under the NDIS. And it's a really, you know, it's a really challenging place for people to work in, and we ask a lot of our people. So I do want to focus on, you know, the feedback that you gave us and the actions that we are putting in place to create a better workplace. And, you know, I think when we talk about what is a good life for our clients and what do we want to do for our clients, actually there's a lot of crossover for what we need to do for our people. And I would say that when we get things right for our people, we're in a better place to get things right for clients as well. And, you know, so I'll just touch on some of the comments from staff. Some really positive comments from people around how they're seeing the organisation change and evolve in relation to kind of, you know, senior leadership and some of the actions that have been taken to drive sort of staff engagement and to listen to people and to respond more proactively to people as well. But as I said, not perfect. So still a feeling that communication, you know, is not as clear as it could be, that people don't always understand why decisions are being made, what is the rationale, and perhaps a lack of communication from some leaders, and a feeling that actions and our work is sometimes, you know, disjointed. So people aren't seeing, how does this connect to our strategy? How does this connect to our purpose? And how does what I'm doing today really have meaning? And we actually know that for people to feel engaged and connected to the workplace, they want to feel that the work that they're doing on a day-to-day basis actually has purpose and meaning and is valued. And if we can't communicate that connection, then that's a real miss for us. So I think, you know, really improving in some of those foundational areas is important. And the third area around communication and collaboration is, you know, more channels for employees to contribute their thoughts, so that upwards communication as well, and creating those listening spaces. Sorry, I'm looking at two screens and I started to drive the wrong one. Some more comments from staff around, you know, I think people do feel proud to belong to Yooralla. They recognise that it is by and large a supportive place to work, and they feel very aligned with the values of the organisation and the purpose of the organisation. So there were a lot of positive comments from staff, but also some real concerns around health, safety and wellbeing, and, you know, how we support our staff on a day-to-day basis. And I want to go back a little bit to the client survey where, you know, Brooke raised the issue of sometimes clients not feeling safe and not feeling safe because of the interactions that they're having with staff members. You know, I think we know that people come to work to do a good job, and by and large people are trying to do the best thing. But if they're not feeling supported, if they're not feeling equipped, then sometimes that frustration is going to be felt by our clients. So, you know, we believe strongly that if we can make things better for our staff and make them feel more supported and better equipped to do their job on the ground, actually we deliver better outcomes for clients as well. So it's a really, you know, it's just a really important area for us to get right. And then, you know, the other thing that was coming through in the data and in some of the comments was around, you know, not feeling that there's anywhere where I can go and speak up or raise my concerns. So people feeling, you know, sometimes actually afraid to speak up or not knowing who to go to be able to get advice and to feel that they're going to be listened to. So, you know, that's a really critical thing from a culture perspective. We need to create lots of avenues for staff to speak up, and we need to create an environment of trust where people feel that they've been listened to, heard and responded to. And then I'm going to talk a little bit more about some of our systems and processes, because these were also areas that were seen as barriers to engagement. Great to see that for 30% of staff, no significant barriers to doing a great job. But for many of our staff, they cited burdensome administrative processes, too many competing priorities, and therefore a sense of workplace stress. And this goes back to that sense of, you know, purpose and real clarity around what are the most important things for me to get right in my role, as opposed to trying to juggle, you know, a dozen different things, and I'm not sure which are the ones that really matter most. Having the right technology to support my job, and I think in the comments below, you know, this is sometimes less about having innovative technology and just having the foundations in place, with technology that talks to other pieces of technology and reduces sort of the admin burden. So just being able to work in more smart ways. So there are a number of barriers there to people's engagement and ability to do their job well, which we've looked at in terms of prioritising some of our actions. Trying to go through this as fast as I can, but I will try to leave a place or time for questions at the end. I do want to spend a little bit of time on this. I've touched on it. You know, people feeling safe in the workplace. Now, again, compared to the disability sector benchmark, we can say that, well, 91% of staff usually or always feel safe speaking up. But I would flip that another way and say that you know, 30% of our staff sometimes don't feel safe, and some of our staff never feel safe in speaking up. So they don't feel that this is a trusted place where they can actually raise their concerns. So, you know, for the workplace to feel unsafe for people, that means that people are not going to be raising concerns and issues to us. They're not getting the support that they need. It means that we will obviously lose good people, but it also means that we've got a lot of unhappy people in the workplace, and that creates issues for those who are working with them and also for the clients that they serve on a day-to-day basis. So we really need to create a workplace environment where people can speak up. Our staff also spoke about, you know, the challenges that they can have with some clients and not always feeling that they are equipped to deal with behaviours of concern. And we put a lot of focus, rightly so, on the needs of our clients and what we need to do for them. But we have to get the balance right so that staff feel that we're equally concerned as we are about them and their workplace safety and their rights. So we need to do that by giving people the skills and the tools that they need to do their job. But it's also about listening to them when they raise concerns and following up with them and, you know, reviewing client support plans if necessary, so that people do feel that they can do their work on a day-to-day basis in a safe way. People also talked about staff shortages and workloads. And again, this is consistent, I think, across the sector, where it can be difficult to attract and retain staff. So there are often gaps and people stepping into roles that are unfamiliar to them and being asked to take on additional activities, which increases the stress on the workplace. So again, really important that those people have avenues for support and feel that they're getting that from their leaders. A sense that interpersonal relationships in some part of the organisation are really strong, but there are some places where people don't feel that it's a good workplace. So, you know, this is one of the reasons why we are focusing on values and behaviours in the workplace, because we know that that is actually foundational to people's day-to-day work experience. And it needs to come from leaders and senior leaders demonstrating those behaviours and, you know, creating that expectation right throughout the workplace, but also peer on peer, you know, calling out when we're concerned about behaviours in the workplace. So from all of that, we've drilled that down to 3 areas there on the right. Sorry, I'm not moving my slides again. Communication and collaboration is one area of focus, workplace wellbeing and reducing the admin burden. So I'm just going to talk a little bit more about each of those and what they mean. So around communication and collaboration, the first thing is about making sure that people get the right information from their leaders. So improving the way that leaders cascade information down on a regular basis using their team meetings and various forums that they have in place. That's, you know, a fundamental kind of responsibility, no matter what level of leadership you are at in the organisation, is to let people know what's going on and the decisions that are being made in the organisation that affect people, and more importantly, why, what's the rationale. Increased site visits by senior leaders and also by staff who work, senior leaders in operations, spending more time on the ground, but also people in our back office getting out and really understanding our organisation at a closer level so that we're delivering more meaningful supports and that we understand the challenges of our workplace. And then the third area is about, you know, we encourage people to speak up, but closing the loop on incident reporting. So we get a good range of people reporting things through Riskman, which is fantastic, but we need to make sure that we're always closing the loop and transferring learnings from issues back to strengthen teams and to strengthen practice on the ground. The other area around communication and collaboration is sharing stories of success and learnings. So it's important to talk about what we need to improve, but sometimes, and we talk a little bit about what we're doing well and we celebrate some successes. And we had somebody recently win a major award, Melissa, which was fantastic. But we have a lot of fantastic staff doing great things all the time. And we need to find more ways to recognise people. So we want to do that by reviewing our rewards and recognition approach, making it more frequent, at a team level as well as at an organisation-wide level, and sharing some of those stories. So there's some key actions around communication and collaboration. Just moving forward from there, onto workplace wellbeing. So, you know, this is a really critical one, not just for us, but again, you know, when I talk to people in the sector and when I look at sector-wide research, this is an issue for our workplace. So there's a number of things that we're looking at. One is around how we strengthen our practice framework and approaches across the organisation, including integrating just culture into that practice framework and into how we think about leadership in the organisation, so that we're getting the right balance between accountability and learning and supporting our staff to create an environment that truly is about learning and trust. And this means providing more training for our leaders. We ask a lot of people stepping into leadership positions and they've often had very little formal development and coaching to support them in. So building those programs and coaching from more senior leaders to help leaders on the ground so that they can deal with a range of situations. Communicating more the avenues that people have to raise concerns. So Brooke touched on these and I'm going to touch on it a little bit further. you know, if there are concerns around workplace behaviours or concerns around feeling equipped to do your job or concerns about clients, there are many avenues to raise those concerns, and we want to make sure that people are doing that. Reviewing our approach to performance management. So this is about including a focus on values and behaviours as much as understanding, you know, what's expected of me in terms of what I deliver in my role. So how we do things is just as important as what we do sometimes. And so getting the right balance and making sure that people are getting development and feedback in those areas. And then finally, improving supports for staff responding to those challenging client behaviours. So this comes back to our practice framework, but also managers closing the loop, you know, with staff who raise incidents. It's really important that when somebody raises something through the incident reporting system, that we're having conversations with them immediately as leaders and following up to make sure that they feel supported on the ground. And I know that whenever there are issues around, you know, safety and well-being, the work health and safety team are now working really closely with managers on the ground to make sure that staff are getting the support that they need. But we all have a responsibility in this space. So I do want to touch on, and I'll share this, you know, we do have we do have a range of opportunities or avenues for reporting. And sometimes I think people aren't aware of what these are. So we have an issue resolution flowchart in addition to all of the various avenues that are open to people on the left. Ideally, we want people, if they feel comfortable and if they feel able to deal with an issue as soon as it happens at the lowest possible level by having a conversation with the person concerned. But if you don't feel safe doing that, then the next port of call is chatting to your leader. And also, if that's not an option, then going to some of the other avenues that are available to you. So that might be the work health and safety team or the employee relations team. So the people and culture team, we have many, you know, people in our team who can help you resolve issues, and that is part of our role. So it's not just dealing with things when they blow up, it's actually, you know, reaching out and being able to provide coaching for people on how do I deal with particular workplace situations. And so, you know, I guess the key message is find somebody who you trust to speak to. Don't sit on something. And if you've reported something once and you don't feel that it's been dealt with, then you should go to another person in the organisation or another part of the organisation. Still don't sit on it, because it's really important that we do actually close things out for you. The final area that I want to touch on is just reducing the admin burden. So the feedback that we got from people was sometimes around our administrative processes, but also about the amount of things that we're focusing on. So how do we reduce that? One of the ways that we're doing that is through the establishment of a project management office to actually prioritise the work that we're doing and streamline it in terms of the order in which we're doing it, so that we're doing fewer things better and being really thorough about how we close them out. And that includes focusing on, you know, process improvement within our shared services, with a focus on not just how we make things better for the teams in shared services, but primarily how do we make them easier for our staff on the ground. Looking at our systems, architecture and roadmap, I'm not going to go into detail on that. And then also moving from paper-based files to more digital records. Now, that's going to take us some time to get there. But these are some of the things that we have on the horizon for the organisation. So I can see that we're over time. Apologies for that. Eloise, I tried to be really fast, but any questions or comments, and obviously, you know, please feel free to reach out to me or put them in the chat as well.
Well done, Di. You did that very well, very clearly and very speedily. And sorry, people, for keeping you longer than what we normally would be spending the time on this, but we thought it was very important. I will have to dock some points to myself for timekeeping, but there is another session at 4 p.m. today if you want to join us again. But otherwise, you will know how easy it is to contact Di, Brooke, Matt, myself, Terry, or anyone else that you might have a question for from today's presentation. Have a good rest of the day, and we will see you again. Thanks all.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eloise.